Grand Rapids is the second biggest city in Michigan. It's also been named one of America's fastest growing cities, but studies are showing that housing isn't keeping up with demand. A report by Housing Next shows Kent County is outpacing the state in population, growing 5 times faster. And while Michigan is expected to decline in population over the next few years, Grand Rapids and Kent County as a whole are expected to grow. It's projected that Kent County will need about 35,000 additional units by 2027. While this gap hits all price points, lower and middle income buyers are the most vulnerable. And that's on top of prejudice that can impact the housing system. But we'll get to that shortly. Lack of sustainable, affordable housing plays a huge factor in the number of people battling homelessness. In its 2021 annual report, Michigan saw a 2% decrease in these numbers. But here in West Michigan, shelters like Meltrotter Ministries have been forced to expand into overflow shelters, with numbers generally spiking each winter. And there is a line separating levels of income insecurity, poverty, and homelessness, but all of these factors play a role in our community. Today, we're talking with leaders in West Michigan's housing sphere to get a better snapshot of where our neighborhoods stand. We start with WGVU's Jennifer Moss, who's in the studio with the Fair Housing Center of West Michigan in an important conversation about equal opportunities.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, there are many issues surrounding housing, affordable housing, of course, being one of the top, and affordability as well as availability. Those are two big concerns. You guys deal with housing discrimination in many cases. And you've mentioned when we talked earlier that your caseload right now is the highest or the second highest it's been in 43 years. Tell us about that and perhaps delve into the why as to why it's so high within 43 years.
Right. It's disappointing to see, but it could also be for positive reasons. So I'll back up and say our job is to investigate illegal housing discrimination based on protected classes at the federal, state, and local level. So things like your race, your skin color, whether or not you're married, if you have a disability, if you have children, there's a whole growing list of protections. So we investigate and hopefully help the industry understand their obligations to comply with fair housing, but we also welcome complaints of housing discrimination. So the numbers will always go up, we think, before they go down. So I'm hopeful that the numbers going up means that more people know their fair housing rights and are reporting discrimination. On the flip side, there's also the possibility in a very tight housing market, as you said, where some of the best qualified applicants are struggling to find housing. Then finding housing discrimination on top of that can be very, very challenging. So it is surprising to see the numbers go up. I hope that means people recognize and report housing discrimination, because that's what's going to be critical to stopping it and confronting it.
And you do, again, get a lot of those complaints. You deal with those allegations of discrimination. We look at that a lot of times in the realm of race and color, but quite frankly, your number one housing discrimination piece is disability.
It is, and that does surprise folks. It's been that way in West Michigan since 2015, following a trend of discrimination against families with children that came out of the foreclosure crisis. However, race-based discrimination is on the rise. It's always been happening. It tends to be a little bit harder to uncover. We have a lot of West Michigan polite happening, and people have really, learned to offer housing in a way that doesn't seem like they're discriminating. But on the back end, when we do our investigations, we find that they are. But disability-based discrimination is a real problem because people are looking for not only affordable quality housing, but also accessible features. A lot of folks are thinking about, where can I live for the rest of my life? Where can I age in place? Can I put a ramp here, a grab bar here? Will my apartment community allow me to have a caregiver, an assigned parking spot? So those are the types of discrimination cases that we see, is just really not working with the needs of people with disabilities.
And so how do you guys track? How do you figure out, well, we can pursue this particular case of alleged discrimination versus this one? I mean, you've got, again, the different realms and the protected communities that you talked about.
People bring us complaints or allegations. Our services are free. We do not have attorneys on staff, but we have an incredible team of enforcement coordinators who walk side by side with all of our clients. Another notable point is that we have our highest caseload. All the cases that we have represent individuals. So we have a lot of clients who are directly experiencing fair housing violations. Sometimes we find problems just kind of doing survey investigations, or you see a billboard when you drive by and it's not in compliance. So it's really showing us that a lot of people are experiencing fair housing issues directly, bringing it to us, and we help them walk the path. We figure out which laws have been violated, which options our clients have. They can go to court, they can file administrative complaints. There's different ways. And quite frankly, in this housing market, a lot of people just want us to work directly with their housing provider to get the transaction back on track, to either get into the housing that they've worked so hard to find, and also to maintain the housing, if they're a person with a disability, to get those changes in the bathroom so they can stay there longer, keep that affordable rental rate maybe that they've been able to get. It's critical that fair housing laws are upheld for those reasons exactly. People should be able to choose where they live based on what meets their needs and what they want. What's in their neighborhood? Is it close to work, groceries, parks, employment, healthcare? All the things that we need to thrive and survive can be yanked away by a fair housing violation. And it's been very challenging with this market that we're in, identifying housing discrimination and moving fast enough to try to help stop it, because you've got homes selling overnight, units are leasing up left and right. So pausing for a civil rights case is very stressful, and it asks a lot of folks, but we need to know about it in order to correct it.
And you don't have a lot of time with those either.
Correct.
With the market the way that it is, right?
Exactly.
You've kind of got to move fast, and sometimes maybe limited staff or different,
Right.
with an overload of cases,
Right.
a lot could fall by the wayside. Do you feel like you're making some inroads in this?
We do. We've had some incredible grant opportunities. We've grown our team a little bit. We've also expanded our service area, so we're covering about 38 counties in Michigan, but we're right here in downtown Grand Rapids doing our work. We really need people to bring these issues to our attention, and anyone can report housing discrimination. We don't have attorneys. We are a nonprofit, so that gives us a unique space to work in where we can advocate for both the clients experiencing discrimination and also for the people who want to uphold fair housing. A lot of housing providers, professionals, realtors, lenders, landlords, they want to do the right thing. They may not necessarily know that what they're doing is illegal. So some of them are responsive to education.
Okay.
That said, we do help file cases in court, et cetera.
Absolutely. And the Michigan's Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act, that's going to be added to in the coming year.
Yes.
What parts?
So sexual orientation and gender identity will officially be added to state law as protected classes, which has been a long time coming. So we're really excited to see. It could be any time before March of 2024. We've been doing a lot of education. Prior to this, it's been a little bit harder to help advocate for discrimination based on those two protected characteristics. So having it on the book, so to speak, is going to be really incredible to open up opportunity for those communities.
Give you a little more power there. So as we look at the big picture of fair housing, Liz, what would be your end goal or hope when you look at all of the things and the case overloads and the overwhelming number of applicants and those filing complaints and that sort of thing, and you are making some inroads, but what's your goal, your personal hope?
I am so passionate about housing choice that I hope we work ourselves out of business. It's very trite. Many nonprofits say that, but as a civil rights movement member, we really want to see the need for the enforcement and the education to go away over time. Until then, we're here to meet either need and to help move that needle. With civil rights, you can take 3 steps forward and 5 back, or 3 steps forward and then another one forward. And with a 43-year history, we've been able to be a part of that movement and maintain it here in West Michigan, which is an incredible place for everyone to live, and everyone should have that right and that opportunity.
Well said, and thank you so much for what you do and what the center does. We appreciate you, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity.